In this video, I'm going to show you how to make the background blocks for the Harry Potter Quidditch quilt I'm making for my dad. All the templates are provided for free in the description of this video. There will also be links to the 2 previous videos if you're interested in starting from scratch and making your very own Harry Potter quilt. We're also going to compare my blocks to the Harry Potter movie inspiration, and at the end of the video, I'll do a quilt top reveal. So don't forget to like, comment, and share this video, and if it gets 100 comments by the end of the month, I'll show you the weird thing I add to all of my dad's quilts. So this is the inspiration from the Harry Potter movie I was going for my background block. And here's my mock-up. So I knew from the beginning that I was going to need to do some applique. Before I cut any fabric, or actually before I bought any fabric for this quilt, I did a little sample, and it worked out okay. It was a little difficult to get all of the bulk in these points here, but it worked out. So when I was getting ready to do all these background blocks, I thought maybe I should do another test just to get the practice, get the muscle memory before I do it on a larger scale. So I used some scraps to make this sample, and I did not get the same results. I got a ton of fraying. I'm not sure if you can see that very well. A bunch of fraying at both of the points. I was having a hard time managing the bulk, and I was imagining having this problem for I think there's 40 trees that I'm gonna have to do. So trying to manage this situation 40 times, I was like, that is not, I don't want to do that. That would drive me absolutely crazy. So I went down a rabbit hole of trying out all of the different applique techniques that I could think of. So this is reverse applique, and I was not liking how my points and corners were coming out. They're very messy. I completely lose the sharp points because there just isn't enough excess fabric to fold over. So it's just going to be a frayed mess there. For a little more frame of reference, here's what it looks like before I started sewing down the other fabric. So you can see this very sharp point here, it just is not translating. I also tried interface applique, and that was a complete disaster. There's no way I was going to try to wrestle with this 40 times. And again, the points are working against me. I just could not get them turned out. This one I sort of did, but there's like so much tension that it pulls it out of shape. So that was a huge fail, the biggest fail so far. So I had to resort to my absolute least favorite applique method, and that's raw edge applique. And so I kept my points and everything. This is a little sample because I was trying zigzag and, oh darn, I forgot what this stitch is called. Buttonhole stitch? That's not right. I'm not sure. But I tried different stitches to see how I wanted to finish them because I don't like raw edge applique because of fraying. But I was having such a hard time with the zigzag stitch down here. Oh, wait, you can see it better up here. To get that sharp corners. I still couldn't go to the very edge, and in fact I was missing that edge, and it was just not ideal. So I have decided to go with raw edge with just a straight stitch, but in the matching thread. Okay, there's going to be fraying. I'm going to tell my dad to treat it gently and wash it gently, but this is where I've ended up. My least favorite applique method, but it keeps the points very well, and actually it's pretty simple to stitch that straight edge. So here's my Hall of Fame of failures. I was not expecting to go on this journey when I made the pattern, but there we go. As much as I may dislike the finished product of raw edge applique, it really is the most simple and easy way you can do applique. It's great for beginners. All you need to do is make a template of your shape, trace it onto the paper side of your iron-on adhesive, and then you just follow the steps on the back of that packaging. You put on a movie and then time just flies, and all of a sudden you've got 40 of these trees. I think the most difficult aspect of completing this block is just getting everything placed correctly. And that's why I made another, you guessed it, template. And this is also going to be in the description of this video. So it's 6 pages, A, B, C, D, E, F. If you want a more comprehensive tutorial on how to put these together, I did that in the last video, in video 2, with a different placement guide. So anyway, this placement guide has 6 pieces, and at every point in the tree, all 4 points, I used an X-Acto knife and I just cut those corners and folded them back, and then voila, you've got a placement guide. It's supposed to be 20.5 by 20.5, so it should fit your block exactly. Then I took some painter's tape and I taped down each corner so everything was nice and secure and it wouldn't accidentally move at any point. Then I used my marking pencil, and I'll include this in the description if you're interested. But I used this to mark all of my little placements. You just mark these corners, all 4, every tree, all the way down, and then you peel it away. And then your block is ready for all of the little tree pieces to go on. Okay? Okay, I'm going to show you the basics on how to do this, but I'm not actually going to iron them down on camera because I've proven to myself I'm not trustworthy, and I scorched the fabric, and I'll show you a picture of a scorch that I already did, and I cannot be trusted. I have to go to the fabric store and buy more fabric because I ruined a whole block. Anyway, you take your tree. Actually, let me show you that again because I wasn't paying attention. You have your paper back, you have your fabric, there's glue in the middle, and you want to get that paper off. So you fold towards the paper, not towards the fabric, and then it'll come apart pretty easily. Okay, like this. Peel the paper off, and then I'm going to try to match up all of my points. And it's not going to be perfect. You're just trying to aim in the general area. You want to sort of center it within your marks, okay? So as long as you've done that, it'll be enough and no one will notice if it's crooked or not. Now let me show you what happens if you bend it towards the fabric. Nothing. You still have it perfectly adhered, and it's really hard to just sort of peel off. So turn it around, bend it towards the paper, and it releases super easily. So you're just going to do that over and over. And my recommendation would be to start from left to right on the top row, and then do the next row the same way, and then the next and the next. Just so you can stay organized and you don't have to iron over anything that you've already done. Then you're just going to follow the instructions on the back of the package. I think mine says 6 seconds. Apparently I am not good at counting to 6 because I did scorch that other block. So I would recommend watching something boring, or just silence maybe, so you don't make the same mistake that I did. Here's the scorch mark I was talking about. It looks like a shadow, but it's a stain. If you're enjoying this video, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. And if you want to support this channel, check out my merch shop and buy me a coffee page. Okay, let's get back to the video. Okay, I'm not going to make you watch me sew all of these down, but there are a few tips I want to share that can make this a little bit easier and maybe a little bit more approachable. So the first one is matching thread. It's going to make all of your mistakes disappear like they never even happened. You'll see them on the back, of course, but you will not see them on the front, and that's amazing. I also lower my stitch length a little bit, just so that it makes it easier, so I don't like go over the edge quite as quickly. So just a little bit, and this is working for me, but again, that's personal preference. Next up, you want to go so slow. You are not in a race. You want precision. So you don't want to go over the edges or wobble. You want to go as straight as possible, and to do that, really going slow is your best chance. And then my last tip is to not sew all the way to the corner. So a couple stitches away from the corner, and then I'll use the wheel on the side to advance it by hand so it lands exactly where I want it to land. If it's going to go over, you can pick up your presser foot and adjust ever so slightly, being super careful not to like do anything crazy or wonky with it, but just ever so slightly. You can scooch it up or back as you're winding your wheel down so it lands exactly where you want to go. Then you'll leave your needle down in the fabric so you can pivot on that point and it doesn't get all like wiggly and messy. You're going to pivot with the needle down. So here's a messy sample. So what I'm talking about is I will use my wheel to place my needle where I want it to start. I'll sew, and then say I'm almost to the point. I'm going to advance it by hand, 1 or 2 stitches, and if it's not quite going to hit where I want it to go, I can lift and then ever so slightly move it. These are like microscopic movements practically. Put my needle down, and then it's time to pivot at that corner, and I can pivot with the needle down, put my presser foot down, and then sew again. So you get nice crisp corners, exactly how you want them. So you just do that all over the tree. So you'd sew, needle down, pivot, sew, needle down, pivot, sew, pivot, sew, pivot, sew, pivot, all the way around 40 times over the course of 4 blocks, because you're making 4 of these background blocks. Okay? So I'll sew this off camera, and I'll meet you over at the design wall. It took me several sessions to get it all done, all 4 blocks, but I got it done, and it looks like nothing happened because you can't see the stitching, it's all blended in. So let's scooch in for a close-up. So you can just barely see, there are my stitches. It's not neat by any means, but it'll do. And if you want to see the back, it's actually messier. So you can see each and every one of my trees has this thread nest thing going on because I was not gonna fuss with it. You know, it's not gonna show, it's on the back, it's not enough bulk to have to worry about fixing. So I'm just gonna let it be, and it's just not a big deal. I don't think it needs to be a big deal. Okay, let's talk about block placement because it couldn't be easier. We're just making a giant 9 patch. So you have the R, or if you're doing, Slytherin or Gryffindor, you got your S or your G, but you have your center block here. Then that is surrounded by each of your background blocks. And then finally, in each corner, you're gonna put your leftover accent blocks. So it couldn't be simpler. I'm just gonna sew it all together like a giant 9 patch. I do wanna say real quick though, as you're choosing your block placement, try to pay attention to balance so that it doesn't feel heavy on top or to one side. You want it to sort of settle. But in the end, it is entirely up to your preference here. I'm not going to show you how I arrange my blocks right now. You're going to have to wait till the end of this video to see how it all comes together. Let's look at the movie inspiration first, okay? And I'd like to start off by apologizing because I'm about to show you a bunch of blurry photos. This is from a Quidditch scene, so there's like a lot of quick movement, and it makes for blurry photos, unfortunately. So bear with me. First up is block A, and it absolutely couldn't be simpler. It's a 4-patch. It's a classic beginner quilt block, so it mostly speaks for itself here. Block B, this is a checkerboard or a postage stamp block. You'll notice that my block has a few more little squares, and that's for 2 reasons. I wanted measurements that were easy to work with, and I also wanted it to balance out another block that I'm going to show you in a minute. Now here is block C, and the inspiration and finished block are fairly similar, really, but again, I made some little changes just to make the measurements easy and doable, easy to work with. This is block D, the shield block or the badge block, whatever you want to call it. I made some pretty obvious changes with this one. I reduced the amount of the shields and I enlarged them, and then finally I also simplified the shape. This is an early mock-up that I made for this shape, and I think it looks fine. It looks okay. I don't love it, but mainly I really didn't like all of the extra seams that would have been incorporated. So this part here was sewn with my machine, and then this part down here was appliqued on. So here's the back, if you're curious. And I just didn't like the introduction of all of those seams, so I simplified it, and I just embraced the applique. So it's just pure applique. I didn't have to do a bunch of cutting for the background, and I definitely prefer it this way. Block E, the central block. Now this one changed drastically. I had a raven design picked out, but my dad chose the R option instead. By changing that central element, it really makes the quilt feel like an undercover Harry Potter quilt. It's not obvious unless you know the reference or the inspiration. Personally, I would have kept the raven if it was solely up to me, but I wanted to make my dad happy and I wanted him to actually use this quilt. And then finally we have the background blocks, and I kept the shape, I kept the amount of trees, but I ditched the tiny little circles so fast. I tried one and I'm like, this feels like torture. So no circles at all. For one, I think they get lost at a distance, and for another, I don't think they're worth the extra hassle up close. so no circles. Now you know what's next. Let's get to good stuff. Let's see the finished quilt top. I am pleased with it. I think it came out very sporty, very mannish, and it's understated, but I think that's exactly what my dad likes about it. It's not too kitschy, it's not too on the nose for him. So all in all, I would say I would give myself a B for execution and an A for effort. Let me know what you think in the comments down below. Thanks for spending time with me today, quilters. If you want to support this channel and help me buy supplies and materials for future videos, please visit my Buy Me a Coffee page linked in the description below. If you enjoyed this video, please like, comment, and subscribe so you don't miss upcoming videos. And I'll see you again real soon. Bye!